Welcome back to the Brew Crew Podcast, everyone. This is day 2 of the Advent calendar. Merry Christmas, I guess, is in order for every day for the next 23 days.
Merry Christmas.
Today is day 2
of the 24 days of cheer.
There's the box, as they say. Mm-hmm. That's what she said.
Yep.
And he's got his. I'm going to break mine open here. Let's see what we got today. Pipeworks Brewing Rudolph versus Unicorn Peppermint Stout.
Extreme close-up.
There it is.
Yeah. Who do you think's going to win that battle? I don't know. I say Rudolph.
I don't know.
I don't go in much for unicorns.
Unicorns have, they fart rainbows.
They fart rainbows.
Yeah. So I think that you can use that as a weapon. Because a rainbow, as you know, is blade-like in physical.
Is it?
Materialization.
You know, I don't think a rainbow is going to propel Santa's sleigh, though. And Rudolph does that.
Yeah, Rudolph does that. Although Rudolph is a newer invention.
Than a unicorn?
No, than the other reindeer, right? Wasn't it 8 until that cartoon came out?
Yeah, it was.
I'm not sure. I'm not that
Donner,
old.
Vixen, Donner and Blitzen. No, I already said Donner twice. I don't remember all of them.
Donner's at least 3 of them. And Vixen's the other 6. Or
there must be
5.
We haven't even had.
There's a lot of
the
Vixens.
second day of 24 Days of Cheer yet.
Matt's a Vixen.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, he is.
Matt is a Vixen.
Matt's a Vixen.
Wow, I didn't see that.
There's a lot of.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
What do they call those? Fetishes.
Oh, too much information. Oversharing.
Right. Once again, we got this from Barrel House, and they selected them. Pipeworks out of Chicago. Love.
Nice.
Pipeworks. If you don't know the history of the Brew Crew Podcast, Pipeworks was the first beer we ever reviewed.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was.
Do you remember the name of it?
You know what? Maybe actually Rheingeist was the first one. It was Maracuja. I think is the first beer we ever reviewed.
Wow.
And that might have been Rheingeist, but Pipeworks then was probably the second.
Wow. How many beers have you guys actually reviewed?
Hundreds.
At this point?
I want to say we're close to 350 to 400 somewhere in there.
Wow.
And that doesn't include all the beers
amazing.
we've had just in our normal lives.
Wow.
Not that we have a drinking problem or anything. We keep it contained. So this is Pipeworks Rudolph versus Unicorn. Obviously, Christmas themed beer. This is a Peppermint Imperial milk stout. So as is common with milk stouts, as probably the requirement, there's going to be lactose, milk sugar in this. So hopefully you're not lactose intolerant. Let's just bust it open, take a couple sips, and then like we did yesterday, you go first. Oh, we had a can, so we should have counted down and tried to sink our crack.
Yeah. I think we were pretty close.
We were way off.
Well,
Matt and I have it down to a science.
Wow.
Our cracks are synced.
You know, that's kind of too much information, too, actually.
Yeah. So this one looks a little bit more like a stout, unlike yesterday's, which had a little bit more of a watery feel. Not watery, but a less thick, less motor oil. This one looks
this one
thick.
The stout-like foam came right out the top. Very thick, very tight little bubbles. It looks really nice, very dark.
Interesting. Interesting. What in the world?
Wow, that's good.
So right off the bat, not getting the peppermint. Oh, there's can art.
It's very subtle, isn't it? The peppermint. I noticed the same thing.
Barely there. There's can art. That's great. Can art. This is the Can Burn segment.
It is.
It is a peppermint. The round peppermints that you get in the candy jars that no one eats, and then when you're desperate, a year later, you finally start eating them and realize they're actually pretty good. And then the reindeer. Rudolph and the unicorn, they're sort of, it's like a modern pointillism, but with lines.
Nice.
There's
swirly lines. I can't tell if it's a farted rainbow, perhaps, or
there's no farted rainbows.
I don't know.
But all of the sheen of what the fur of a horse and the fur of a deer would have is all kind of illustrated with these lines and then there's an outline, and that's the can art. I actually really like this can art. It's got a really cool. It's got a conflict feel to it. Obviously, they're fighting. It's Rudolph versus Unicorn, but it's got enough realism in it to where, you know, when animals fight, they're expressionless.
Yeah.
It's weird to watch like two bears fight.
So it's a realistic.
Or two kangaroos. They just look like they are bored, but they're really, really not. They're fighting hard.
They almost look like they could be friends. They look like they could be frolicking and friends. But
they're not friends.
But you know it says versus, so this is like a cage match.
Two flying hoofed animals.
Two flying hoofed animals with horns and antlers.
Horns.
Sorry, antlers and horn.
Antler and horn.
And it's going to be a dual death match to the death in a cage. Well, I'm just making the cage part.
Yeah, the cage part's not in there, but that's
Nope.
okay. I am curious, now that I think about it, the antlers and the horn, if a unicorn horn is similar to the deer, where it grows a velvet, which you can consume if you're on the Milwaukee Brewers for human growth hormone.
Really?
Yeah, there's actually some testosterone in those antler velvets.
That's what the Brewers are known for.
No, just one brewer. Just one. I don't want to call out the whole team. They did beat the Cubs in record, so before all you Brewers fans get to me like, oh, Brewers are better, I know. It was a joke. It's just a simple joke.
I'm trying to stir something up.
Yeah,
at your
we've
expense,
already
so.
stirred it all up.
I'm sure you have.
4 years we've been doing it.
I'm
So
sure
that's
you
it.
have.
All right.
Okay.
That's the can art. Why don't you lead us off with the
You know, it is a characteristic stout. It's very characteristic of what you'd expect a stout to be, I think. It's got that kind of deep, rich flavor. You kind of taste the burnt roasted malt in it. Chocolate notes. It is very, very subtle on the peppermint. I tasted I probably smelled it more than I tasted it when I first took a whiff of it in my first sip. But I'm really not tasting much peppermint at all. It's sweet. It's got a real sweet finish. Sweeter than a lot of stouts, I think. But it's good. It's robust. Not overpowering. Not too dry. And it's just it's a really well balanced stout. I don't know that I would call it a peppermint stout actually, but it's a good stout though.
Just go.
Oh man, I knew you were going to make me do that.
Well, you can think about it if you
I'm
want to
going
wait.
I'm going to think about it.
You wait until after mine.
Yep, you go.
All right. First things first. As another Mattism, the viscosity of this is much thicker than yesterday.
Yep.
Much thicker, and I think that's probably the milk sugar doing that. It's also much darker than yesterday. Day one of the Advent calendar. Oh, and by the way, if you're new and you're following the Advent thing, we should probably introduce ourselves. I'm John. That's Scott.
Great.
And Matt is the other half of the podcast with me, and Scott is part of our Advent group. So that's who we are. And this is thicker. It's darker. It's definitely got yesterday's was sweet. There were some comments on the YouTube and the Facebook about it being too sweet. Obviously, I disagreed. I think Matt disagreed. Scott disagreed. But there were some who said it was too sweet. Some of the stout lovers said it was too sweet. So this is not as sweet as that, but it is sweet.
It is.
Yep. And the peppermint I finally figured out where it's at. It's way on the back. It's on the breath out. And it almost comes off as the alcohol. You'd miss it if you didn't know this was peppermint. There's no way you'd know it's peppermint.
Nope.
You'd actually think that what you're breathing, exhaling out, is the alcohol content.
Yep. That's
Because
true.
and we didn't mention it, but I think others did. It's 10%. So it's easy to confuse that peppermint with the alcohol. It's so subtle that I would not. Man, when I saw the can and I saw the name just now, I thought, if this is a pepperminty beer That would be awesome. Just gives you that like fresh breath feeling. Oh, that would have been really cool. Didn't deliver on that.
I agree. I was excited when I saw the peppermint on there, thinking
Mm-hmm.
that that's what it was going to be. But then when you taste it, and it's so subtle as to be basically vanishing,
Yeah.
that is a little bit disappointing. Although I don't mean to say that by saying that, I don't mean to say that I'm disappointed in the beer and it's not a good beer.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great stout. It's just that the peppermint's really not there.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's good. Those are good comments. I am disappointed in this beer. I do get the chocolate, and again, I get the peppermint at the end. Super subtle. Only reason I noticed it is because it's on the can as being a peppermint beer. The milk sugar, I think, is done well. Could be overdone. As we saw yesterday, the sugar is too high. Wasn't milk sugar, but this one is. And I typically don't like the lactose, but they balanced it well in this one. That's probably the biggest benefit of this beer. Otherwise, I have to reduce my score because of the expectations of the peppermint and the non-delivery. I'm going, it's probably been a long review. I'm going to give this beer a drinkable but underwhelming 3.25.
Wow.
I wouldn't, the reason, I'll give you my reason, I wouldn't buy this again.
Really?
It doesn't deliver what, I would buy this next year to see if there's a, pragmatic evolution.
Yeah, improvement in
But
the peppermint.
I'm not going to buy this year's version again because why?
Yeah.
Didn't give me what I wanted. And you can get these stout flavors in a lot of other beers.
Yeah, in a regular stout.
Yeah, regular stout.
Pretty much, yeah. I'd agree with that. I was going to give it a lower rating than the Neapolitan that we had last night. I'm really thinking about a 3.75 for the same reason. It's a good beer, solid beer. I would drink it again, but really when you compare it to other stouts, it's very similar to other really good stouts. So there's a lot of good stouts out there, so it doesn't stand out from those other stouts on its own, right? Unless there were more peppermint flavor, and then it would stand out, right?
Yep.
So I would say 3.75 for me.
All right, 3.75, 3.25. Not a failure by any means, but not a success. That's day 2 of the Advent calendar for the Brew Crew podcast. Keep checking every day. We'll post new videos. Matt, myself, we're going to get Stev to do it. Hopefully we'll have a whole stream of videos coming at you guys. And Facebook, blah, blah, blah. Comment. That's the key to this. Comment in the comment section. And subscribe. I didn't say that yesterday.
Yeah.
Got to subscribe.
Yeah.
I heard there's a guy on YouTube that says, you told a bad joke when somebody at the bar, and I guess you're at a bar telling a bad joke, which is me all the time. They say, please subscribe. When the response is, please subscribe. I guess that's the thing that young people say now. Anyway, that's it. Brew Crew Podcast, day 2 of the Advent calendar. Thanks for joining us. See ya.